And we'll just play with a couple other properties here. I'm going to go ahead and change that float to right. You'll notice that it moves it completely out of the way, but because we have the clear both on the main, it doesn't go up. So if we take that clear out of there, it pops up, and this time it goes completely past it. Now, why did it do that? That's because this one is floated to the right. So the important thing, the point that I'm trying to make is that when you are dealing with floats, you have to take into account those elements that are above and below that float and know how to control those floats and those clears and the containing elements in order to get a grasp of how are you going to make that page do what you want it to do. So let's bring this back to looking something like the page that we originally started with. I'm going to start with the header, and I like to, when I'm designing, I like to start with the top and make my way down. Now if I clear that float, what it's going to do is it's going to go back to the normal document flow, and it's going to reclaim its space at the top. Because it's not floating, this information is going to float down beside it, or down below it, because it can't come up past it. Even though these are floating, they can't come up past this element that doesn't have a float on it. And this element, the footer, can't come up above this main div because that main div, or because that footer has got a clear on it that keeps it from doing it. So let's go ahead and spread these boxes out across the available space to them. So the first thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and give main 100%, just so that it doesn't have that extra white space. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the clear off of number 3, and that drops them all up so that we have essentially a header, footer, and 4-column page by using those 4 boxes. And this is a very typical kind of layout. Now if we wanted to take up more of the page, we could do that by affecting the wrapper div that we gave. So if we wanted this to take up 90% of the page, then that spreads out to take the 90%. The reason that it is centered is because we've got a margin left and a margin right set to auto. And so there we have the typical way that you use floats. Now you're not always going to want to reclaim this main here. So what are some other ways that we can stop elements from floating up and regain normal flow? So let's go in and look at other ways that we can regain the normal flow of things. The first thing I want to do is I want to take these properties off of my main ID. And right now that doesn't do anything, just simply because the boxes that are inside of it are each taking up 25% of the available space. So that's going to add up to the 100%. What I want to do is let's just let's take those widths back off. Let's change those to 20%. So we're going to change the width back to 20% so that we've got that extra space to play with that has been causing us grief. So I'm going to change those all back to 20%. And you'll notice that we're once again to a position where that div has collapsed to the point where it's only you can see this, but you can't see the div itself. So let's look at some of the ways that you can regain that natural flow. One of the things that you've seen is that by in this footer, by putting a clear, that it is able to regain that natural flow. And that principle is in effect across the HTML, the web development spectrum. If you have a element with a clear, then those elements above it, or it returns the natural flow.